Page 169. Therefore, it is recommended to you that you shall be steadfast in the cause of the truth and the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all existence or creation, so that you can bear witness to the equitableness or fairness and stand up for it, and no person of your kind or human being, or any group of people of your kind, or group of fellow human beings, or even an entire people shall be able to mislead you into being anything other than fair, providing you remain true to your steadfastness. Consider that being fair emanates from the truth teaching as a state or nature of truth, as this teaching carries manifold guidelines or signpostings in itself and shows you the way of your existence or life, that you may walk on it and that things may go well with you. The real truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence or creation promises to all those who are connected to the truth and who do good deeds that they will find forgiveness in themselves for things of falsehood that they do unknowingly and only understand it after they have already committed the misdeed. Their cognition and the atonement, or changing to the better, of the incorrect action will be the great reward that they create and receive in themselves. Truly, misdeed, or error, alone is the way that leads to cognition and unfolding, or evolution, because it is only through committing misdeeds or errors that people of your kind, or you human beings, learn to differentiate or understand things so that you become knowing or conscious, change yourselves, and become connected to the truth, equitableness or fairness, and righteousness or conscientiousness, as well as evaluation or cognition, and true discernment or rationality. Those, however, who persist in unknowledge and remain far from the truth, and condemn the signs or evidence of the laws and recommendations of the wellspring of all love, or creation, they are in their own inner nature occupants of a shadow world, or hell, that they have created in themselves. Always consider the goodness of the wellspring of all love, or creation, which it has set in its laws and recommendations, so that you do not strive to raise your hands against another people, or wage war, in order to subject it to yourselves. Because as freedom is something that each of you your kind, or human beings, is entitled to, so all peoples are entitled to it. Therefore you shall not split them up or bring them under external dominance. Do not be lightless or blind in your obsession or greed for might over other people of your kind or human beings, and neither be obsessed with or greedy for might over other peoples, but hold back your hands and your desire for it, and do not assume that the ones you have subjugated will eternally remain your subjugated ones, because truly they will grow in their number, or multiply, and strike back at a time when they have become strong enough against you and are more knowing in many things, and consequently they will no longer allow themselves to be suppressed. Trust in true freedom, which you shall grant to each one of you, and to all peoples, so that you keep the peace amongst one another, and do not wage any battles or wars against one another. And truly, if you heed the truth, and are connected to it, then it will always be with you. Thus, you also heed freedom and peace. And if you heed the truth, and are connected to it, then you awaken in yourselves 12 leaders which accompany you at all times, as true love, as esteem, as deference, as kind-heartedness, as dignity, as virtues, as faithfulness, as equitableness or fairness, as righteousness or conscientiousness, as uprightness, as modesty, and as obligation or responsibility, and determine your deeds in your existence or life. See, the truth is always with you, but you have to make it your own, because simply the presence of the truth does not bring any benefit or success unless you use it. Therefore, be connected to the truth and heed it when you direct your prayer to your inner world or consciousness, when you distribute your alms, and when you make a considerable commitment or effort/interest/attention to learning about the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life. And if you have committed misdeeds in the past, then you free yourselves of them, if you are turned towards the truth and recognize the things in their reality. Thus, you can create a garden of the truth in yourselves, through which streams of cognition, love, peace, freedom, and consonance or harmony flow. However, anyone amongst you who falls away from this way of the truth and returns to the path of the unknowledge that is strewn with thorns, that human being is truly straying from the straight way. Those amongst you who are ready to break your bond or agreement with the truth, you are thereby hardening your inner nature yourselves, and therefore you are cursing yourselves in your striving, because you are falsifying the words of the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, and therefore the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence, or creation. And those amongst you who are false scribes and false explainers, or interpreters, who shall write and teach the truth, you are falsifying and mixing up, or changing, the true words from their correct places, so that people of your kind, or human beings, forget the majority, or largest part, of the truth teaching, and the admonishments of the true prophets. And truly, since time immemorial, it has not ceased that treachery on their part against the truth teaching has been discovered, so that only a few things have been retained which approach the truth and are given by the teaching of the prophets. Those amongst you who are searching for the real truth, forgive the fallible ones and killers or destroyers of the true truth teaching, and do not heed them, but remain sublime above their terrible doings, and strive all the more to find the way of the truth and of its teaching, so that you may follow it and you can rejoice in the good reward of the truth. Truly, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, is not just intended for one people, but for all peoples of your world, and therefore the truth teaching stands in the bond or agreement with all peoples of the world who follow many false prophets, and from whose false teachings a godliness or religion, and many sub-godlinesses or cults/sects were created. But truly, in the past, the truth teaching was given to them already by true prophets from far from or outside the line of Nokodemion. But they have forgotten everything with which they have been admonished, and they have turned to false prophets and their false teachings. And because the false prophets and their false teachings were regarded as true by your forefathers and foremothers or forebears/ancestors, and by all peoples, they followed the false guidelines or leading thoughts, and kindled enmity and hatred amongst one another, leading to battles or wars, and evil acts of Gewalt, which you have maintained as their far distant descendants, or children of children, etc., up to the present day, because you do not want to know the awful things that your forefathers and foremothers, or ancestors/forebears, had done by following the false prophets and their false teachings. And as you do not want to know what your forefathers and foremothers, or ancestors/forebears did falsely with regard to the truth teaching, so you do not want to know what you are doing in the same wise, and are thereby trampling all things into the ground which are life's true values. Truly, the real prophets came to you, and come to you up to the new time, or start of the new time, from the year 1844 of the 19th century CE. And it is they who reveal to you time and time again many things about the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all wisdom or creation. And there is always much of it which you keep hidden from yourselves and overlook out of chicken-heartedness or cowardice, because you do not want it to be true, and because you have learned it wrongly through the false prophets and their false teachings. But it is only in the teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of the truthliness, that no blemish or doubt, no falsehood or deviousness, and no lie is to be found. But the scribes, charged by the prophets, have falsified it so that finally a true prophet will come to give the truth teaching in writing, in order to really set a light of the real truth for you, and provide the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, in a clear source or book. And truly, through the source or book of the true prophet, from the line of Nokodemion, all those will be led in the new time, or from the middle of the 20th century, who are looking for their inner joy in the truth teaching, and will henceforth lead themselves out of their darkness, of their going into confusion, to the light of the truth. And as people of your kind or human beings, direct or lead themselves on the right way through the teaching of the prophets, love and consonance or harmony, as well as peace and freedom, will come about. Truly, anyone amongst you who says that true prophets are only blabbermouths or charlatans and deceivers, whereas the false prophets are the true ones, you not only would like to destroy the truth, but also the true prophets themselves, because as they admonish you to the truth and discover your lies, they are like thorns in your eyes. Truly, despite your lies and your guilefulness or intrigues, the true prophets and their teaching are superior to you, who are fallaciously searching for your kingdom of heaven, in the heaven of a god or tin god, or realm of gods and tin gods, through your godly or religious beliefs or assumptions, despite the fact that these are only pseudo-natures, fabulated or invented by people of your kind or human beings. And you do not want to understand that the kingdom of heaven is in you, as is the kingdom of the shadow world or hell, because truly heaven and the shadow world or hell are a location or condition in yourselves that you form according to your knowledge and unknowledge, whether for good or for evil. You yourselves alone have power over it, because only you alone form your inner world or consciousness and your psyche. And there are many amongst you who say that you are sons and daughters of a god or tin god, and are his darlings. But ask yourselves, why does he then punish you for your missteps, or vices, /guilt, /unvirtues, /offenses, as is taught to you by the false prophets and their false teachings and priests, and other servants of gods or servants of tin gods? Truly, punishment which results in harm to body and life and psyche is a work of evil, which you create in your thoughts and feelings through insights or ideas, and which people of your kind, or fellow human beings, concoct or hatch, and have concocted or hatched/invented in yourselves in order to practice revenge and retaliation for your own pleasure or gratification, and for your own craving or delectation. Truly, the laws and recommendations of the primal power of all life or creation do not know any punishment of this kind whatsoever, merely the recommendation of punishment that teaches that each error brings about distinct consequences, from which emanates a recognition of the fallibility and of balancing, or making good/change, i.e., learning to do better and to do right. And therefore this recommendation of the primal power of all life or creation shall be an ideal in order to form the jurisdiction and its deeds of punishment in the same wise through your ability, so that no one of your kind, or human being, may be harmed in body and life, or in their psyche, and so that punishment may only take place in order to balance out or make good / change, i.e., learning to do better and to do right. And what shall be given is a stay for a certain time in a suitable place of fulfillment of guidelines, or secluded island / secluded place, where the fallible one can dedicate themselves to the truth teaching in order to change and improve, but where they also shall be responsible for their prosperity and adversity, and therefore for their own provision or subsistence. The primal power of all life or creation does not forgive whomsoever it wants, and it does not punish whomsoever it wants, because it merely gives its laws and recommendations, which you shall follow or disregard, according to your free will, so that you yourselves decide what is right or wrong for you and your nature or attitude, according to the laws and recommendations of the primal power of all life or creation, from which it is given that you think and act subject to your own responsibility, and you yourselves influence and form your feelings, your inner world or consciousness and psyche, so that you may forgive yourselves or punish yourselves according to your own consideration or will / discretion, as is taught to you by the true prophets, to whose teaching many of you are traitors. However, your betrayal will last for a long time, far into the time to come or future, beyond the new time, when, following a long interruption in the line of the prophets, the last true prophet brings you the source or book of the truthly writing of the teaching of the prophets. He it is who will make the things of the teaching clear to you, as has never been achieved before in fullness and ampleness or quantity, so that you may not say that no bringer of joyful news and no warner has come to you. And therefore it will be that in the new time, in truth, the last true prophet from the line of Nokodemion, the originator of the true prophets, will come to you as a bringer of joyful news, but also as a warner. And his words and writings will be as powerful as never before, so that you may finally grasp and differentiate or understand between the truth of the teaching of the prophets and the untruth of the teachings of the false prophets and their priests and servants of gods and servants of tin gods, who drive you into beliefs or assumptions of their godliness or religion, and who enslave you in your thoughts and feelings and in your inner world or consciousness. And truly, all true prophets from the line of Nokodemion, who have gone and taught before, they told you that you shall turn to the truth teaching and the grace of the laws and recommendations of the creation, as individuals and as peoples. And truly, none of the true prophets from the line of Nokodemion are ever envoys of gods and tin gods, but they are children of people of your kind, or human children, from your midst, who, through their own willingness and diligence, or activity / assiduousness, learned their knowledge and their wisdom, and everything associated with it, through their own power, which stays alive, however, through a spirit body, or spirit form, which is ancient of days, or age-old, vastly, or eons, older than yours. And truly, on your world, since time immemorial, true prophets have only come about or appeared from the line of Nokodemion, from whom true instructors took the teaching of the prophets and taught it. But these were also persecuted and slandered or calumniated and exposed to persecution by people of your kind or human beings, just like the true prophets themselves. The teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, and therefore the teaching of the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal power of all existence, or creation, is given for all peoples of the world, so that no one people shall have more than another, and none shall be disadvantaged. And as you enter a country, you may listen to the same teaching of the prophets and follow it, so that you do not have to turn your back on the foreign country, and you do not have to turn around as ones who are lost. And if a country contains an over-courageous and almighty people, in which Gewalt is practiced on strangers, or in which strangers are limited in their freedom and in their knowledge, then do not enter this country, so that you are not exposed to Gewalt or terror and coercion. Do not enter the country or move into its cities until its people and its authority have moderated and welcome you in benevolence and friendship, or when they leave their country. Do not enter a house or a country unless its inhabitants are endowed with kind-heartedness. Therefore, you shall only go through the gate and move forwards if you are certain, or without doubt, of being welcomed in benevolence and are sure of trust. And if you, whether man or woman, enter a house or a country, then greet in a seemly or commensurate wise those who are within it. And if you are wearing a cover on your head as you enter and at the greeting, then remove it from your head, and thereby show that you have freedom and dignity. Therefore you shall do the same. And if you have covered your face, then remove the covering when you enter a house or a country, so that the others may recognize or see your uprightness. And cover your head and your face from the light or rays of the sun, against the weather or influences of the weather, and against sand and storm, so that your skin and your head or brain are not harmed and do not sicken. But never cover your head before gods and tin gods, and before people of your kind or human beings, who demand the same from you, because it is disgraceful to have to cover your head in submission. And therefore do not cover your face before people of your kind or fellow human beings, because covering the face means concealing evil defilement or unright. Therefore go forth and wear your covering for your head and your face, if the condition or situation equals sun/weather conditions/sand/storm demands it, but do not allow yourselves to fall into submissiveness through wearing coverings for your head and face.